Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon with another 2v2 for you guys today. I'm teaming up with I Hate Helos, and it is on Punchbowl, but instead of dogfighting in Feder and Elena, I am headed up toward Boris, Dimitri, and Center. So I'm playing as Baltic Front, and my ally Helos is playing as Red Dragons, and right off the bat we see a KF-16C Block 52D, and this means South Korea, probably Blue Dragons. And that is confirmed by an OH-6 and some other units over on this side as well. While there is a Panther headed up toward Helo's contested spot between Elena and Feder, which probably means either French or Eurocorps. Now, the Block 52D really annoyed the hell out of me, so the HQ-7 actually shot all four of his shots there. Didn't get any of them. We are starting to engage here in the front, and these Heavy Young 90 aren't, well, we'll see in a second. But there's a J7C that I guess is sent out after the Block 52, or no, this is a bombing run. Helos did some wonderful support for me at the start, and my own infantry as well was headed over to the far right side of Boris, while I have a Pion and a couple other spike teams trying to support in the front. And this is where it gets really ugly. So the Block 52D is engaging with a MiG, and my MiG for some reason decides instead of engaging he wants to turn. So I do lose the MiG. Block 52D does get out. My Yekri are getting a little bit fought out in the front here in the center zone, and there's a rush of helicopters, AH-1Js, 55 points apiece, and I love these guys. They are amazing, but they are not exactly amazing at dealing with ITOs. Well, except for right now. So I do lose my ITO. The AH-1Js are actually taken out by Iroquois Yekri, it looks like, at least in part, so that should be a last Igla firing in just a second. Yep, on the way, down it goes. A little bit unfortunate I lost that big ITO piece. He had used 5 of his 8 missiles with good effect, and this is something where I have to say, after that opening, I didn't realize how much stuff I had here compared to how much was over in this side. So I am trying to show the neutral perspective more often. There was some Hebyung 90, there was some Tukjan Sa, and these guys are, I mean, they're amazing. They're 30-point elite recon infantry, and that was basically it. The KM-163, KM-900, and yeah, I mean, NVA-02, one of my opponents with the Blue 4 team here, had just kind of been pancaked even harder than I had, and I made a mistake. I should have been pushing up at this point. I should have been moving these guys forward, moving the Renico forward. I should have had a unit of Iroquois on this side. Instead, I got a little bit mixed up when I did my opener, and I didn't. I only had the Pion, who is down to a single point of strength, and that's why he is retreating there. I was also bringing out a ROM to try and forestall any other helicopter or plane madness, and, well, this KT we'll return to later, but I had also at this point capped Dimitri, a couple units of Yekri 90 and BTR 50s, just cheap transports holding here, trying to prevent any sort of shenanigans over in Dimitri. So that's been a lot of focus on me. Let's take a look over at what Helos has been doing, and this is usually the sign of trouble in this sort of zone, at least by my limited experience with it. You really want to hold the town, and not being able to hold the town sort of means you probably had a hard opener. And of course, some of that's because he was supporting me as well over on the side with one of those attack helicopters, but yeah, I don't know. So it could just be how he's doing things. I'll ask him the next time we play together. But Tenka Xiaoxiao, Zanshi, and Lu Zhendui are trying to make some movement toward the town, and we can see more reinforcements coming up this way in ZSDs. These guys are, of course, the 5-point cheap transports, so we're in the full grindy part of the game now. But that's a nice interception from the Blue 4 team, and a Panther using those Snap rocket pods is going to be very effective at zoning out 2 units of infantry here, while the Rima are killing Zanshi that are headed up toward the town. So a bit of a smack in the face there, and I'm actually using my mortar trying to smoke up the town on this side to prevent that fire from being able to come in, trying to prevent those Rima from being able to open up on the Zanshi while they're trying to move forward into the town. And also, I was a little bit too late, but I was trying to prevent those transports getting shot, so my apologies there for the timing, Helos. But the Hebyung 90, the group of 2 that was there previously, is now down to a group of 1, and my spike team over on the side is able to forestall reinforcements, not only getting rid of their transport, but also severely injuring a 25-point unit of infantry down to 4 strength out of 10 is very nice. There are some Tukjan Sa that are still forward here, and they will be a nuisance for way too long. But my KT now is over in center. It's just a single 20-point KT, right? Who's he gonna hurt? Nothing could possibly go wrong here. But what he is doing is he's trying to explore, he's trying to find the enemy CV, trying to surprise enemy units, and I mean, I was reliably informed that these guys, when they went up from 15 to 20 points, they're so expensive now. You have to get good use out of them. You have to use them for infiltration in order to make that money back, or at least be a nuisance somewhere else. Because instead, if you don't do that, you have a 20-point transport delivering 10-point infantry, and that's just very not cost-effective. Which is why later on we will see some 5-point transports from me as well. But I am bringing out T-72 M2 Wilk. We also have a little bit of resupply headed up toward, I believe it was the Spike team and the Pion, just because this guy was out of missiles. Both my Spike teams did wonderfully this whole game. I was really happy with that. But the Pion also on 1 strength. I should have probably retreated him back toward the FOB, but unfortunately I didn't. So this is where the action is happening, though. Zanshi still trying to move up into the face of Rima and Commando Marine, a couple reinforcing VAMs as well, and Tenka Shashao not able to maintain line of sight quite long enough to get that kill. So a little bit unfortunate. They're in a wonderful position for it. 1400 meter range, 16 AP should do wonderfully here. Just a little bit of rotten luck with the vision. But more smoke support coming in from Helos. He's trying to protect his own units in the backfield, but a pair of 30 B2 Brennises is just vicious. I mean, damn, right? Like, a wonderful placement for those tanks. They can use their autocannon against infantry. They can use those F1 main guns with their 16 AP power against transports, and these ZSDs, they're expensive. They're 15-point autocannon transports, and they're getting mulched by a pair of Brennises. Which is just kind of brutal. So more smoke, trying to block the Brennis' line of sight is a nice play, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit just because I'm a little tired of hearing that same guy shouting in my ear time after time after time. Now, my Yekri and Penzo Yekri are nearly dead, and I should probably have retreated them or something like that and cycled them forward with the new Raniko, and I do now have Iroquois Yekri over on this side. Actually, 2 groups of Raniko probably could have put up a pretty good fight. I was being a little more cautious than I should have been potentially here, but I really wanted to make sure that we could hold Dimitri. Helos and I were talking, and I mean, he was doing fine, but he was having, we were talking, we were sitting there going, it's a little bit of a rough time, and Feder Elena could be a little bit smoother. Maybe it would be just a good idea to keep things in hand here. My KT is able to take down 1 unit of paratroopers. One of those UH-60Ps does go down, and right away that makes up the point value of that KT. 25 points off the helicopter, not to mention the infantry inside, popping that guy up to veteran. And now, because he was spotted early, I'm moving my Alouette and a Sokol over, trying to get that guy before he can let those infantry down. So let's see. 6 strength originally on the UH, down to 4 because of the KT, allowing a single Igla to take that shot, and down he goes. So, I mean, hey, 20-point vehicle, at least 60 points in kills, probably more, actually, at least 70 points in kills, 10 cost infantry, probably expect closer to 90 or 100 even, depending on what it was, if it was special forces. We do now have a artillery, napalm artillery call out from Helos, and this is going to be fun to watch. So this guy, short range, 7,700 meter range, but it's area denial. It's trying to force your opponent out of where he wants to be into where you want him to be, and, you know, making use of that exposure to get a wonderful firing concave, things like that. And I don't know, this one, it looks like the dispersion is a little bit high there. It's going to kind of struggle forcing things out without more saturation. But, I don't know, it seemed okay. And meanwhile, I'm actually massing for an attack. So these are just cheap BTR-50s, 5 points with Yekri 90 in them, so 10-point infantry in each one of them. And this is a mistake on my part. So as soon as I smoke here, that's the sighting position for my opponent. He's been pounding me with artillery over on this side as well, so I just wanted to do something about that. I wanted to move forward into that center town and push those Tukshun Swa out, but Tukshun Swa, as amazing as they are, they're still only, what, like 25 points, 30 points infantry? And this is significantly more than that. Even if it's just cheap infantry and BTR-50s, and then I have some expensive ones in the XA-180s that are going to be dovetailing off of this attack and heading over into the town here. That's why the smoke is now in that other position. I'd meant to do a bit more of a delay, but I have good infantry in the XA-180s and the BMPs trying to go up and secure that side of Boris. So we'll have to see if it works out. The Wilk is also sort of... he's behind the whole group, trying to make sure he doesn't get shot by ATGMs that should preferentially target the BTRs, but this artillery, it's coming in before I even get there. Right, so as soon as I smoke this, very nice response from the enemy team, and I'm walking into a death trap here. It's a pre-sighted position. I waited too long to get the BTRs on the way, and now I'm paying the price as Tukjan Sa are just crushing my BTR 50s. Yikri inside is popping out, stunned, damaged, nearly killed. These guys should all have been unloaded, they weren't. And the Peace Pheasant 2 makes short work of my Wilk. Let's see if we can get revenge, and yes, we do. So the Peace Pheasant goes down, but that Wilk is gone, which means my anchor for this whole push is gone, and I don't know, these Tukjan Sa might be able to outfight my Yekri, especially as another volley of artillery is coming in, just absolutely merciless with that. And, well, my mistake for not killing the Block 52 is coming back to bite me, as he is circling overhead, area denial for air superiority fighters, bombers, things like that, plus radar AA as well, and he's shooting it at the RUM, and he gets it. So, bad micro on my part, should have handled that better than I did. Alas, I did not. So, Tukjan Sa down to 6 men, but my Yekri that were in the town have been fought off. I'm sending up another pair, just trying to get in there and get rid of that elite infantry. There were 2 in here. And I guess they're 30, not 25. That's a little bit better for me, but still not great. We do spot an enemy Leclerc. He's going to be fighting with his ETQ, and that's going to be a very short fight indeed, as my ally's ETQ is taken out. And now you can kind of see what I mean. We had a pretty strong opener, one I failed to capitalize on so well, and now we're a little bit in the pits. So the Tukjan Sa are still alive. The artillery has pounded this whole advance, which is probably about 200 points into the ground. Cheap stuff, and I had a lot more of it, but they're not endless, and that has to be taken into account as well. So my response to this is, okay, we need to do something else. We need to start getting points on the board. 12 minutes into the game is not all that far in, but given the situation on the ground and that I felt we were kind of losing our initial edge here, in part just because, I mean, there's 3 K9 Thunders back there just pounding away constantly. I thought, okay, well, let's do something about that. Let's get rid of the cap and center. So Iroquois Yekri moving up. Alouettes trying to scout for a CV I should have found a long time ago, and finally able to find it. I was way too cautious here. Should have just sent these guys up and over. KT was sitting there the whole time, right? Had overshot the enemy Jiwicha. There's no other support here, and that KT is going to win that fight with the Jiwicha. It should be relatively quick as well. Down he goes. Iroquois Yekri will be supporting in this town here. Peace Bridge coming in too late of a response, trying to take down the Alouettes. But, I mean, that's a +2. So we're finally putting points on the board, points we should have had on the board as of about 8 minutes ago and just weren't able to do. Enemy Leclerc is falling back with a single point of health left, so serious smackdown given to it by I Hate Helos, but not enough to get the kill, and that will be costly later on. In the meantime, more ZTZs, and these guys are 60 points. They're basically his version of that Brennus combo that had been such a nice anchor in Elena for so long, and you can see we're starting to get a little bit thin. So even when we first took a look over here on the left, there was a lot of infantry. There's a ton of it, lots of vehicles, lots of infantry fighting vehicles with those autocannons, and now things are getting a little bit worn through. So Li Ren in the center, Li Jian in the center, Helos blocking off the play in that center forest, which honestly I probably should have done. But this is another unfortunate one. My Iroquois try to get over into these woods, and then I tried to pull them back, but the K1 able to just wreck them in the open field. So I probably should have just moved them up this way, done the short town hop. We might have been able to kill the K1, and my intention was to cut off reinforcements into center, which I was unsuccessful in doing. And that means, well, my hold here isn't all that great. I have 2 Alouettes, Super Pumas, KTs, a couple more KTs with infantry, but with that K1 guarding the way over here and potentially being able to have good vision on this side, I can't push them forward all the way to the bridge, well, all the way to that road, at least not yet. So there has been a K1 out in the open for a while, and I don't know. This was a fun game. Looking back at the replay, I learned things about it that I wouldn't have originally assumed. I thought this whole side would have been a spiky porcupine of death and sadness, and so far it wasn't. But I do also pull out an XA-180 Copa. This was done because, even though we were getting pounded by artillery, right, and my spike team's nearly dead, my Ranico have been basically shot up for free by that artillery piece, I have a couple resupply vehicles here. We have a decent hold on it with the Yekri and the KTs on this side. I thought, you know what, I can probably cap here. It might be unexpected in terms of positioning. Most people, I think, would probably expect capping here, or maybe in the back town there, and that's not what I did. But, I don't know, I thought, let's push this up to a +3, start to be a little bit cheeky in that regard. That block 15 still just doing such great work. But Tukjan Sa are engaged by my allies Li Jian, and these are just the 25-point ones. They do not have the napalm launchers there, and, I mean, it's enough. It's long range, mini-me versus a Type 81, and the Legion are stunned. The K9 Thunders were just amazing. But look at that. 50 points of infantry erased by a single volley started up after the fight had started. That short aim time on the Thunder really just proving its worth there. I'm going to be using those guys a lot more than I already was. However, it looks like Helos is starting to make a bit of progress, and let's flip to neutral here to see what remains. Yeah, I don't know, a really defensive posture from the blue 4 player. Roland 3, Crotal, Mistrals. Milans are good over there, more Mistrals. It's a lot of anti-air for a team that has been dominating with that block 52 pretty much the whole length of the game. And now you can see there is a Jiwi Cha buy from the blue 4 team. They're trying to make up for that +3, now actually into a +5 ticking, as I have also secured in center. So command infantry moving up into the forest, and I reconsider this. I wanted them over there. And then I realized, well, no, my best defense is the Air Corps Yekri. Let's get them over into the town and then resecure our +5 ticking and force our opponents to do something other than just fight us, because frankly, they were fighting us pretty well. And yeah, now you can see the cost of failure here earlier on, so I was unable to secure this, these 2 roads into the zone, and because of that, my enemy is able to move his own stuff in. So a couple WRSA tanks, 17 AP power on a 45-point body is, I mean, it's good fire support, right? So you shove a couple things in front of it, some cheap infantry in front of it, and let these guys shoot, and it's going to give people a really hard time, particularly against things like KTs that are not designed to handle a 45-point tank with an actual gun. In the meantime, my Yekiri spam has gone forward again. I did mention the other day that I'd seen this from just, I guess, some players who are better than me, just occasionally pushing forward with some light infantry and supporting behind it. Of course, I'm not supporting behind it because I'm still learning how to do this, but I don't know. I wanted this position. I wanted to force him to respond here for minimal investment, and single groups of Yekiri 90 seem to be the way to go for that. And as you can see, we do cap the town. I'm trying to push forward into the woods there as well, but our friend the Leclerc is back. More napalm actually forcing him out of the woods there, which this is brilliant. Super heavy tanks don't like to be seen, particularly not at awkward angles like that, and the napalm allowed me to get a very nice kill off the Syria 30, forced that tank out of the woods. There was no smoke to extend his defenses, and the Syria 30 is able to go in, get the kill, and get out. 165 points basically for free, with the down payment of a Syria 30 for 120, so okay, not free, but at least not as expensive as it could have been. Peace Bridge now coming in, and that was actually pretty brutal. Losing the Sokol there, which was my defense against helicopters, did not feel good, particularly because I knew that this guy had used quite a few of those efficient 55-pointer AH-1Js at the start, so I was very worried about that going forward. We do get an excellent spot though. So Jiwi Cha, spotted by my Yekiri, and I was sitting there going, wait, no way, come on. This would be the most valuable Yekiri known to man if they could get this kill. And let's see, we're moving toward it. A little bit of a late response for me. I didn't notice him right off the bat, and not able to get to it. But now I know he's there. I know he's moving up into center, and so I know that I need to look for him, and that's okay. That at least is something. Now we do also have a command vehicle coming out from Helos, probably in response to the cap on Elena by the blue 4 player here, which, I don't know, he's still holding. The position from Helos is still a little bit in trouble, just because of sheer attrition. So I have a Pion moving up, and, well, I was trying to help. I know it doesn't work out that way in the end, but we'll get to it. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I did also want to get rid of that K1, so the Syria goes in again, and this is not worth it, just so you guys know. The K1 is, what, 90-95 points, the Syria is 120. I would not have sent that in. I would not have purchased that plane, because he did die to a refall, had it just been for that K1. That's why I sat out there for so long without a response. I only bought that plane when we saw the opportunity on the Leclerc. We got the Leclerc. I wanted to double down on that. And so, I mean, that single plane for 120 points on my side was able to get 260-ish points of theirs. However, my Yekiri were spotted by the blue 4 player earlier when I went up against this Jiwi Cha, and Hebyung 90 are going to be a really nice quick solution. The Yekiri actually did kill a single group before they could disembark. This was a triple, and it got hammered by those M72A4 laws, and now it's just a double of Hebyung 90 that are definitely more than enough for my standard line infantry. The K9 Thunders are going to be firing in again. We should have gotten more counter battery fire on them. I don't know, those things are hard to kill, and I didn't really have the best howitzers in here to respond, but I mean, the amount of value they accrued is crazy. And right away off that first volley, you can see my command infantry down to 3 strength, down to 2 strength, and let's see if they survive. Last volley in, still at 2 strength. I have no idea why. Sometimes that one looked like a direct hit, but didn't actually deal anything. So we still do have centered counter cap now, so it's not a +5 anymore. It is still a +2, and we're up at 350. And that was sort of, well, I guess +3 now that Feder has been capped. This was still comfortable enough that I felt kind of okay, even if I got pushed out of Boris, even if I got pushed out of center, and that became a really decent possibility as Hebyung 90 were moving forward there. I lost my SU-22 M4P to the Block 52 that must have a kill list a mile long, so wonderful, wonderful play there from the Blue 4 player. F-18C coming in and finally able to take him down. The first one should have gotten him, though, and this was just entirely my fault for not having done that. We did also see there just briefly command infantry moving in from Blue 4 player and probably setting up in one of these 2 town blocks. That was my guess. I'm kind of embarrassed I hadn't been able to take this zone the whole time, but again, it's easy to play, well, Monday morning quarterback, as it were, and look at the neutral and say, oh, this is clearly open, why didn't you go? It just wasn't the feeling that I got during the game. So I'll need to work on that later on. But Hebyung 90 engaging with my Yegri here, and that's going to be more than enough, especially when they're supported by the Raska. But my Super Pumas and that Mi-17 are able to get some nice shots there. The Hebyung 90 retreating, actually, which was really nice. I didn't think they necessarily had to, but popping out of the town is why they die. So the Mi-17, when they were in the town, is shooting, and it has, I think, something like 70% damage reduction against infantry in towns. The fact that they hopped out was what allowed him to kill the whole rest of the unit. K1A1, however, does engage with my T-72 M1 Wilk. I bought him, I sent him all the way over, and I sent him all the way over just to die, unfortunately. So 140-point tank. This is what my Syria should have been waiting for. It's why you don't send them in on those suicidal runs against K1s, tanks that aren't worth it. This guy was spotted for a while. And look at the angle of approach, too. If I come in from this side, and we're moving up toward that K1, we would have hit him in the side. Wonderful, wonderful impact from ATGMs there, and that tank would have been dead. To the Syria, no problem at all. We are also holding in the center, so an emergency buy of a Pion PSV as I realized that my opponent was getting some traction on this side of the map. Also moving the BTR-50s forward just to sink a little bit of attention, and my Copa somehow stays alive. I think the targeting position on the Thunder was just a little bit off, better lucky than good, every once in a while anyway, and he had stopped pounding my command infantry on this side, so this is actually something we both did. If I flip to neutral here for just a second, I also got his command infantry down to 1. I just never fired the last volley, because I fired 2, I figured if it didn't die off of 2, it probably wasn't there, and I figured he had moved it, so I didn't shoot again. Instead, he was right where I thought he was, hanging on with a single pip. Just goes to show, sometimes this game is a little weird. But we do have a nice little duel here as we get to the last 2 minutes of the match. My Pion, so this is a 75-point tank against a K1. Now, in a straight-up fight, the K1 should win every time. You can see my Pion landed a hit. The K1 was already at 8 strength, down to 6. Second shot, down to 4. And the K1 shooting at things that don't matter. 2 BTR-50s destroyed, that's 10 points total. And the Pion, meanwhile, has claimed 3 hits on the K1 that has not been responding well, and might not even have vision on the Pion, as it looks relatively unsupported. So, down to 1, and let's see what the Pion can do. Actually, let's get a zoom in on the K1. Final shot comes in, and down the tank goes. So, always, always, always have recon is what makes the Pions and recon tanks just that potent. Iroquois Yekri moving up, trying to deal with the Raska, and we do get that kill. Super Pumas just trying to distract here as UH-60Ps come in, and in the closing couple points here too. I mean, Hawk Pips devastated that. That was nice. But 477 points for us, and I'm barely holding this position with a couple of Iroquois Yekri that are now going to be out of Iglas as they fire at that last UH-60P. And actually, what killed the other one? I'm not really sure. We do get an AH-1J though, so the Iroquois is doing some wonderful work. Super Pumas moving over, just trying to spot the K1, trying to tie them down, trying to tie down the Hebyung as we round the corner to 490 points, and that is going to be the game. So, in terms of kills and losses, pretty close, honestly. 37-65 for us, 32-60 for them. And Hilo's actually had a really tough fight that game against the French player. 12-39 kills against 18-15 losses. But he was able to fight to a standstill, and we were able to use our control of the far side of the map to our advantage. So nicely played to Helos and to my opponents, Bob Has Fallen and MVA02. Very enjoyable game, and I hope to catch you guys both around. In the meantime, we will have another game up tomorrow, so thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.